Hi all, welcome back. In the previous session, we saw how to hit the SOAP API server using the SOAP libraries called SOAP method keyword. In the today's session, we will see the next method called SOAP method with string XML. Okay, so this method uses the request XML content as a string, and then it passes that XML string value to the API server, and whatever the response that we get, it returns as the response object. Okay, and similarly, how we validated the response, we can also validate the response data, but there are some minor differences in how we can validate, and in the today's session we will also try to cover apart from the response content validation in the response XML, how we can validate other data like response header, response time, all these things. Okay, so we will start with our test case using this particular keyword. I'll switch to Python. I'll give a test case name, example2, and this is the keyword that we are going to use now. As we discussed previously, before hitting the API server with the keywords that is provided in the library, we need to create a client. Okay, the client, and then we will pass the visitor URL. So this step is same for the previous keyword and also the current test case, not the previous keyword, previous test case, and the current test case that we are seeing now. Okay, and this particular keyword that we are going to use, we will check this particular documentation. So it is asking to pass the XML, the request XML that we see it in the SOAP UI. You can see this request XML, right? So we need to pass this XML as a string value. Okay, this keyword is asking a string value. Yep. I have created a variable called string XML, and the actual data for this variable I will provide it in the variable section. Okay, what we are going to do is we are going to copy this particular request XML, and we pasted it in the variable section. By default, like this particular variable will take the data only this one, because it is going to take this particular value. It is not going to take the values in the next line, because the next line is considered for the next set of variables. So if you want to group all these things as a single value, we need to use the continuation characters, so that robot framework will know the value for this variable is not ending here, but is continuing in the next line, so that it can take all these lines as a single XML value. Okay, so now we have constructed the request XML, and this particular keyword is going to pass or take the string XML as a string, and then it is going to hit. So hit the API server. So once the API server is hit, and the API server is going to respond with some value, right? And we have to capture that value. I'm going to use a particular object or variable to capture that response data. Okay, and this response is going to store whatever the data that we are getting from the API. So the response will be a little bit different when we compare it with the response in the previous test case. We will run this particular case and then see what kind of response we are getting in this variable, and then we will add additional steps for further validation. I'm going to the terminal, and I'm going to run this specific test case. Okay, I'm not going to run the entire suite, so I just pass the particular test case name so that this particular test case can run. Okay, it got passed. I'm taking this log file URL Okay, and then we will check what kind of response we are getting. Okay, so if you see here, the entire XML we are getting as a response, right? Okay, so this is the difference when we compare to the previous exercise. When the previous test case, you would have got that specific value, this country name alone. So in the second keyword, like you see the entire response XML. So next part, now we know the API is responding with the entire response XML. So we have to validate the response, right? So how we validated the value or response here, similar way we have to validate. Now we are getting the entire XML as a response, right? We need to parse the XML and then take the specific data, and then we can do the comparison. How we can parse the XML and then take a specific value? We need a value from this particular element, right? Country name results. We need to pick that. How we can pick that? We have a keyword for that. If you go to the SOAP library, we have a keyword called get data from XML by tag. We can use this particular keyword to retrieve a specific value that is available for the tag. Okay. We are going to use this specific keyword. I will copy this keyword in our test case. Okay, and then what arguments we need to pass? One is like the actual XML or response that we received in the previous line. We are going to pass it, and then from what tag we need it. We need the data. Okay, these two parameters we need to pass. First, I'll pass the response that we received in the previous line, and the next is we need a tag. Okay, and this tag you can get it from this particular response content, and we are going to use that one. Okay, and then this keyword is going to return the value. We'll use that value. Okay, and then we will add this validation condition. So the value should be result. Okay, we will run the case and then we will check this validation is working or not. Refresh this log, and you can see this particular keyword is taking the exact value that is available in that country name element, and then it has returned that value. So in the next line we have compared. So this way you can retrieve the data from the response XML and then we can do the validation. Apart from the content from the response XML, we can also do additional validations, like if you want to validate the status code. If you go to the SOAP UI, if you go to this raw tab, you have a list of data, right? Apart from the response XML, you also have the header, status code, and all these things. You can also validate all these contents. Okay. So for this current session, we will try to validate the response code, and we also validate how much, not exactly how much, whether the time duration between the request that we sent and the data that we received from the API server. So between there is a time gap is there, right? We will try to check how soon the API server is responding. If you want to validate the API server should respond within 2 seconds, then we can add the specific validation. Okay, we will start with our coding. If we have to take this status code and this response time data and all, right? So for that we have a keyword called get lost response object. Okay, by default you have a response here, right? So it will not have all the data that we need, that we discussed, right? So it will not have all the data. If you want to validate the additional data that is coming in the response, then we can use this specific keyword. Okay, so it will take the previous response object and then it will fill the data for the parameters that you are seeing here. Okay, so for now, for this session, we are going to validate the status code, and we will check the response time or elapsed time. Okay, so we will use this particular keyword here. So this keyword is not going to hit the API server again. It just uses the previous response object, and then it will construct the values. The newly constructed response object, I will give a name as detailed response. Okay, and then I'll log the status code and also the elapsed time. Elapsed time is the time difference between the time we send the request and the time we got the response. And in order to get the status code, the property, you can put a dot, and then we can use this documentation to get the exact property. So this will return the status code data, and the next one is elapsed time, right? We will copy that. Okay, so this elapsed time will return as a timestamp, like in the format hour, minutes, string, milliseconds. We don't want all these data, right? We just want to measure in terms of some number, say how many seconds it took. Okay, so for that we need to add a method like time seconds. I think we will check it. In case it is not working, then we will correct it. Okay, I'll run this case. Okay, so let me run from here. Okay, there is some syntax error. Okay, we will correct that. So it is total seconds. So we have corrected, and then I'm running the test case again. So now it got passed. We will check the logs. Okay, the 200 we have received, and how much time it is taken. It has taken 0.26 seconds, lesser than 1 second. And then we have got the data. Now we can add the validation conditions here. So first I'll say should be equal as numbers, and then I'll check the status code is equal to 200, and then the next validation is total elapsed second should be less than 2. Okay, these two conditions I have added. Let's run the test case now. Okay, it got passed. We will check the log. Okay, so this 200 is passed because the value that we get from the API server is also 200, and this validation is also passed because we are checking the value should be lesser than 2, and the actual value that we have is 0.15 seconds. So in this way, like, you can do additional validations from the response content. That's all for this session. We will cover other keywords in the next session. Thanks for watching.